Captain Ta stood at attention in the plain gray room. His black uniform was clean and pressed. Not a single medal was out of place. He waited for his new orders. General Kim walked in, a folder in his hand. "At ease, Captain." Tai relaxed his stance, but kept his face serious. "Sir, your new mission is unlike any other you've had." The general placed the folder on the table. "You are to guard Ambassador Ji of the Yun people." Ta picked up the folder. Inside was a picture of a tall, slender woman with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. She looked proud and cold. "The Yun don't like humans much," said the general. "But this alliance is too important to fail. Ambassador Jai is the daughter of High Counselor's son, the most powerful Yun leader. Her safety is now your only concern." "I understand, sir." "Do you? The Yun blame us for the border wars. They think we are violent and simple." The general's voice grew hard. "Some humans feel the same about them. But this peace must hold, Captain, whatever it takes." Ta nodded. "When do I start?" "Her ship lands in 2 hours." The landing bay hummed with activity. Ta watched as the sleek silver ship touched down. It was beautiful in a strange way, like nothing made by human hands. The door opened with a soft hiss. 3 Yun guards stepped out first, each tall and graceful, with weapons that looked like art but could kill in an instant. Then came Ambassador Ji. In person, she was more striking than her picture. Her long white hair was braided with tiny glowing stones. Her blue skin seemed to shine under the lights. Her dark eyes took in everything at once. She did not look happy to see the humans waiting for her. "Ambassador Ji," said the human diplomat who stood next to Ta. "Welcome to New Earth Station. I am Diplomat Li, and this is Captain Ta, who will be your personal guard during your stay." Ji's eyes narrowed. "I have my own guards." "Of course," said Li with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Captain Ta is simply a courtesy and a requirement of our security protocols." "A courtesy I did not ask for." Ji's voice was cool and musical, but her words were sharp. "And a way to watch me, I think." Ta stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Ambassador, my only duty is your safety." Ji looked at him fully for the first time. Her gaze felt like ice. "How many Yun have you killed, Captain Ta?" The room went silent. Diplomat Li looked shocked. Ta met her eyes. "None, Ambassador. I joined after the peace. But you would have, if ordered. It wasn't a question. My duty now is to protect you," Ta said, "even at the cost of my life." Ji smiled without warmth. "Let us hope it doesn't come to that. I would hate for a human to die because of Yun matters." She walked past him, her guards close behind. Diplomat Li sighed. "That went well." "She hates humans," Ta said quietly. "Can you blame her? The border wars took her mother." Li straightened his jacket. "Just do your job, Captain. Stay close, keep her safe, and try not to start another war." Ta watched Ji walk away, her back straight, her steps light. This would not be easy. But a mission was a mission. He had sworn to serve, to protect. Even if it meant protecting someone who despised everything he was. He picked up his bag and followed, keeping a respectful distance. Ambassador Ji might hate humans, but Tai would show her that at least one human could be trusted. He just hoped she would give him the chance. 3 days had passed since Ambassador Ji arrived. 3 days of her pretending Captain Todd did not exist. Ta stood by the door of the meeting room. Inside, Ji spoke with human leaders about trade routes. Her voice was calm but firm. She did not give in easily. "The Yun ships need access to the Starway Pass," she said. "Your patrols stop our merchants too often." The human officials frowned. One of them, a stern woman named Director Park, shook her head. "The pass has been a hiding place for raiders." "Not Yun raiders," Ji said. Her blue skin seemed to darken with anger. Ta watched her closely. She was smart. She knew when to push and when to wait. He was starting to respect her skills, even if she would not speak to him. Later, As they walked to her quarters, Ta stayed 5 steps behind Ji and her young guards. He noticed how she stopped to speak with a group of children who were visiting the station. Her cold face warmed as she bent down to their level. She answered their curious questions about her homeworld with patience. "Do the Yun have pets?" asked a small boy. Ji smiled. "We have companions called Lani. They are like your cats, but with 6 legs and 2 tails." The children laughed in delight. Tai made a mental note. That night, in his small room next to Ji's larger quarters, he looked up information about Lani. He wanted to understand more about Yun culture. The next morning, Ji seemed surprised when she found Tai reading from a small screen. "What are you doing?" she asked. It was the first time she had spoken directly to him in days. "Learning about Yun customs," he said simply. "I thought it would help me do my job better." Ji stared at him for a long moment. "Most humans don't bother." "I'm not most humans." She almost smiled, but then her face became cold again. "It doesn't matter. After this tour, I will return home where no humans are allowed. Until then, I go where you go," Ta said. Ji turned away without another word. That evening, they attended a large reception at New Seoul Station. Important people from many worlds gathered to talk and eat. Ta stayed close to Ji, watching everyone who came near her. A message came to his personal device. It was from his commander. "Warning. Threat detected. Possible attack on Ambassador Ji tonight." Ta moved closer to Ji, who was speaking with an Yun trader. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "we need to leave." Ji ignored him. "Ambassador," he tried again, "there is a security threat." She turned to him with angry eyes. "Do not interrupt me, Captain." Tay took a deep breath. "I have information about a possible attack. We should return to your quarters." "I will not run and hide because of some vague human warning," she said. "I have work to do." "Then allow me to increase security," Ta said. "Please." Jai looked at him closely. Perhaps she saw something in his face that told her this was serious. "Very well," she said at last. "But I will not leave." Tai called for more guards. He stayed even closer to Ji for the rest of the night, watching every face, every hand. No attack came, but he did not relax. As they finally returned to her quarters, Ji spoke. "Was there really a threat, Captain? Or was it just an excuse to control my movements?" "I would never lie about your safety," Ta said. Jai studied his face for a long moment. "Perhaps not." She entered her room, and the door closed behind her. It wasn't much, but it was something. A tiny crack in her wall of distrust. Ta took his position outside her door, ready for a long night of watching and waiting. His duty was all that mattered. Even if she never thanked him, never trusted him, he would keep her safe. He had sworn it. The mining colony of Hyun-3 was busy and noisy. Workers from many worlds dug for rare metals in the moon's rocky ground. Ambassador Jai had come to settle a dispute between Yun and human miners. Captain Todd did not like this place. Too many dark corners. Too many places for danger to hide. "Stay closer, Ambassador," he said as they walked through the main hall. Jig gave him a cool look but did not argue. That was new. After the warning at New Seoul Station 1 week ago, she had started to listen to him more. Not much, but a little. The meeting room was large with many windows. Ta checked every door, every shadow. Something felt wrong. "The meeting will start soon," said the colony leader, a short man named Han. "The Yun miners are very angry about the new work zones." Jay nodded. "I will listen to both sides." Tay's device beeped softly. A message from his team. "Motion detected on roof. Checking now." He moved closer to Jay. "Ambassador, I think we should." The windows exploded inward. Glass flew everywhere. People screamed. 3 masked figures jumped into the room, holding weapons. "Death to the peace," one shouted. Ta moved fast. He pushed Ji down and covered her with his body as shots fired over their heads. He felt a sharp pain in his shoulder but ignored it. "Stay down," he told Jai. Then he rolled away, pulled his own weapon, and fired back. One attacker fell. The other two ran for Jai. Tai jumped up and tackled the closest one. They crashed into a table. Ta felt another sharp pain, this time in his side. The Eon guards joined the fight. Within moments, all three attackers were down. "Ambassador," Ta called, looking for Jie. "Here." She stood up slowly from behind a fallen table. Her white hair was dusted with glass, but she seemed unhurt. "Are you injured?" he asked. "No, but you are." Jie pointed to his shoulder and sighed. Blood stained his uniform. "It's nothing," Ta said, but the room started to spin. He put his hand on a chair to steady himself. "Medical team, now," Jie ordered, her voice sharp with worry. The next thing Ta knew, he was lying on a bed in the colony's medical center. His shoulder and side were wrapped in bandages. The pain was dull now, pushed away by medicine. "You're awake." Jie was sitting beside his bed. Her clothes were still dusty from the attack. "Ambassador, you should be in a safe room with your guards." Ta tried to sit up. "Be still," she said. "The danger is past." They caught two more attackers trying to escape. Tai relaxed slightly. "Who were they?" "That is the strange part," Jie said. Her dark eyes were troubled. "Some were human, some were Eon. They worked together." Ta was surprised. "Humans and Eon, working together to attack you?" Jie nodded. "There are those on both sides who do not want peace." She paused, then added quietly, "You saved my life." "I was doing my duty," Ta said. "You took shots meant for me." Jie touched his bandaged shoulder lightly. "No one would expect a human to do that." Before Tai could answer, his device buzzed. He reached for it with his good arm. The message was from his commander. Attack was planned by mixed group. Humans and Eon working together. Be careful who you trust. Jai saw the message too. Their eyes met. For the first time, Tai saw no coldness in her gaze, only confusion and something like respect. "Rest now," she said, standing up. "We leave when you are well enough to travel." "Ambassador," Ta called as she reached the door. "Thank you for staying." Jie paused. "You bled for me, Captain. Sitting with you was the least I could do." As she left, Tai closed his eyes. Something had changed between them. The wall was still there, but now it had a door. 2 weeks after the attack, Ta stood beside Jie as she spoke to a room full of leaders. His wounds were healing well. He still felt pain sometimes, but he never showed it. Jie's voice was strong as she talked about trade routes and peace agreements. The Eon wished to share the stars with humans, not fight over them. Ta noticed something different about her now. When she said humans, she no longer spat the word like it tasted bad. It was a small change, but important. More surprising was that Jai had asked Ta to join her in the meeting room instead of guarding the door outside. She had even asked what he thought about some trade issues before the meeting started. When the meeting ended, they walked together to the ship that would take them to their next stop. "You did well in there," Ta said. Jai looked at him with a small smile. "You sound surprised." "Not surprised. Impressed," he corrected. "You made both sides feel like they won something. That is the secret of good diplomacy, Captain." Jie's dark eyes studied him. "You have been reading more about our culture." Ta nodded. "I found your history interesting. The Great Migration story is amazing." "You know of the migration." Now Jie was the surprised one. "Most humans do not care about history." "I care," Ta said simply. They boarded the ship. It was small but comfortable. As they entered the main cabin, Tai suddenly felt dizzy. The air seemed wrong. He took a deep breath, but that made it worse. "Captain." Jie's voice sounded far away. "Ta." He tried to answer but couldn't. The room spun around him. The last thing he saw was Jie's worried face as he fell. When Tai woke up, he was in the ship's medical bay. Jie was sitting next to him. reading something on a small screen. What happened? His voice was rough. Jai looked up quickly. You're awake. Good. She handed him a water cup. The air filter in the cabin had a leak. It released a gas that is harmless to Yun, but toxic to humans. Tay took a small sip of water. How did you know what to do? Jai looked away. I have been studying human biology. For diplomatic purposes, she added quickly. Of course, Ta said, trying not to smile. Diplomatic purposes. Jai changed the subject. We will reach the peace station tomorrow. You should rest until then. Ta nodded, but then asked, Why are you here? You could have let the doctor watch me. Jai was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You stayed by my side when I was in danger. It seemed right to do the same. Later that night, Ta woke to find Ji still there, looking out at the stars. She seemed sad. Cannot sleep, he asked. Ji turned to him. I was thinking about my father. He expects so much from this mission. You're doing well, Ta said. The alliance is stronger because of your work. But is it enough? Ji sighed. Sometimes I wonder if true peace is possible. Our peoples have hated each other for so long. People choose war or peace, Ta said. Not species. Jai looked at him with new eyes. That is a wise thought, Captain. I have them sometimes, he said with a small smile. Jai actually laughed. It was a light musical sound that Tai had never heard before. Rest now, she said, standing up. Tomorrow will be busy. As she walked to the door, Tai called after her. Thank you for watching over me. Ji paused. We are not so different after all, it seems. When she left, Tai looked out at the stars. Something had changed between them. Not friendship exactly, but something close to it. A bridge where there had once been only empty space. Peace Station hung in space like a shining wheel. It was built by both humans and Yun as a symbol of their new alliance. Ta and Ji arrived there 1 month after the attack on Hyun 3. Tae's device beeped as they settled into their rooms. The message made his blood run cold. Leader of attacks identified. Commander Dai of Yun forces. Highly dangerous. Increased security needed. Ta knew that name. Commander Dai was famous among both humans and Yun. A war hero for the Yun, feared by humans. He went to Ji's room and showed her the message. Do you know this Commander Dai? Ji's face turned a lighter shade of blue. That cannot be right, she whispered. You know him? Tai asked again. Jai sat down slowly. He was my teacher, my mentor for many years. Ta frowned. I'm sorry, but the evidence is clear. We need to increase your security. No. Jai stood up, her eyes flashing. Dai would never betray our people. Your human intelligence is wrong. We cannot take that chance, Tai insisted. Your safety comes first. I will not believe this lie. Ji's voice rose. Ta had never seen her so upset. Ambassador, please. Even if you don't believe it, we must be careful. Ji turned away, her shoulders stiff. Leave me. Ta didn't move. I cannot do that. Jai was quiet for a long time. Then, in a small voice, she said, Day was more than my teacher. He was promised to me as a mate. Tai felt like he'd been hit. I didn't know. Political changes ended the arrangement, but we remained close. Ji turned to face Ta. He would not try to hurt me. Then why does all evidence point to him? Ta asked gently. Ji shook her head. I don't know, but I want to find out. How? There are records here on Peace Station. Information from both humans and Yun. Ji's eyes met Ta's. Will you help me look? Without telling your commanders yet. It was against his orders. Against his training. But Ta nodded. Yes. They spent 3 days searching through files and records. They worked side by side, reading reports, checking security footage. On the 3rd night, Ji found something. Look at this, she called to Ta. This message was sent from Dae's personal code. The message was in Yun language, but Ta had learned enough to understand the key parts. The peace must fail. The human lover must be removed. Ji's hands shook. Human lover. He means me. Her voice broke. Because I support the alliance. There's more, Ta said, pointing to another file. It showed money moving from Day's accounts to known criminals. The dates matched the attacks. Ji stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars, her back straight but her hands still shaking. I trusted him, she whispered. I believed in him. Ta wanted to comfort her but wasn't sure how. He stood next to her, not touching, just being there. All those years, Ji continued, he told me humans could never be trusted, that they were violent and simple. She turned to Ta. He was wrong. I'm sorry, Ta said. It was all he could think to say. Tears filled Ji's dark eyes. What do we do now? Without thinking, Ta reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool against his warm human touch. He expected her to pull away. She didn't. We tell the truth, Ta said. And we stop him before more people get hurt. Ji looked down at their joined hands, blue skin against tan. Yes, she agreed. Together. When she looked up at him, Tai saw something in her eyes he had never seen before. Not just trust, but something deeper that made his heart beat faster. Something that scared them both. Tai and Ji spent the next 2 days gathering more proof of Da's plans. They moved like shadows through Peace Station, checking computer records and talking to trusted contacts. We should tell your father, Ta said as they worked in Ji's room. High Counselor's son needs to know. Ji shook her head. Not yet. We need more evidence. My father respected Da for many years. Tai understood. It was not easy to tell someone that their hero was a traitor. There's an old space station near here, Ji said, looking at a map on her screen. It was abandoned after the war, but our sources say Day's people use it now. It could be dangerous, Ta warned. Ji's dark eyes met his. Are you afraid, Captain? Only of failing to protect you, he answered honestly. Ji smiled. It was no longer strange to see her smile at him. Then we will protect each other. They took a small ship to the abandoned station. It was dark and quiet, floating alone in space. No one had been there in years, or so it seemed. The power is still on, Ta noticed as they docked. Someone is using this place. They moved carefully through empty halls. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Ji led the way to the control room. The computer might have records, she whispered. The control room was dusty, but the main computer still worked. Ji began searching through files while Todd watched the door. I found something, Ji said after some time. Plans for an attack on the main peace conference next month. Both human and Yen leaders will be there. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed in the halls. Someone knows we're here, Ta said, reaching for his weapon. We need to leave now. They ran for the door, but it slammed shut. Other doors closed too. They were trapped. What's happening? Ji asked, her voice tight with fear. Tai checked his device. The station's security system is active. It's shutting down all systems, including life support and the main engines. Can we override it? I'm trying. Ta worked at the computer, but the system was locked. No good. We have about 6 hours of air left. Ji paced the room. There must be a way out. They searched for hours, trying to open doors, restart systems, or call for help. Nothing worked. The air grew thinner. The temperature dropped as power systems failed. 5 hours later, they sat side by side against the wall, saving their strength and the little air that remained. I'm sorry I got you into this, Ji said softly. You didn't. I chose to come. Ta looked at her. In the dim emergency lights, her blue skin glowed gently. No regrets. Ji smiled sadly. I have one regret. What's that? That I let old hatreds blind me for so long. Ji turned to face him. You are the best person I have ever known, Ta. Human or Yen. Ta felt his heart beat faster. Ji. I need to tell you something, she said. If we don't make it out of here. She took a deep breath. I care for you. More than I should. More than is allowed. I care for you too, Ta said quietly. But it cannot be. Ji's voice was sad but firm. Yun law forbids such things. My people would never accept it. I know. Ta took her hand. Her skin was very cold now. But here, in this moment, none of that matters. Ji moved closer. In my culture, we share life breath when the end is near. It means our souls will find each other again. Slowly, she leaned forward until their faces were close. Ta could feel her cool breath on his skin. Just then, a loud clank echoed through the station. The lights flickered on. The doors hissed open. What's happening? Ji asked, pulling back slightly. Tai checked his device. Emergency systems just came online. There's a rescue shuttle docked at the far port. Someone sent help. They looked at each other. The moment had passed, but something had changed between them. A line had been crossed. There was no going back. After their close call on the space station, Tai and Ji returned to Peace Station with their evidence about Da's plans. They sent it all to both human and Eon leaders. 3 days later, a message came for Ji. Her father, High Counselor's son, wanted her to return home right away for an emergency meeting. I must go, Ji told Tai as she packed her things. I'll come with you, Ta said. Ji shook her head. You cannot. Humans are not allowed on the sacred ground where the meeting will be held. It is our oldest law. It's too dangerous, Tai argued. Da knows we have evidence against him. My father will protect me, Ji said. And I will have guards. Ta didn't like it, but he knew he couldn't change her mind. At least let me come to the edge of your world. I can wait there. Ji looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Very well. The trip to the Yun homeworld took 2 days. Neither of them spoke about what had almost happened on the abandoned station. But something had changed. They sat closer together. Their hands would touch by accident and linger a moment too long. When they reached the Yun homeworld, a small ship came to meet them. 3 Yun officials in formal clothes greeted Ji. A high council awaits you, Ambassador, one said with a bow. You alone. Ji turned to Ta. Wait here. I will return when the meeting is over. Tai took her hand. Be careful. Ji squeezed his hand. I will. After she left, Tai felt uneasy. Something wasn't right. He checked his device and sent a message to his commander. Request information on Yun emergency meeting. The answer came back quickly. No emergency meeting scheduled. Check again. Tai's heart raced. It was a trap. He tried to call Ji, but her device was off or blocked. Without thinking twice, Tai took a small ship from the main vessel. He flew down to the Yun world, following Ji's signal. He knew he was breaking the sacred law. He knew it could cause a war, but Ji's life was in danger. The ship's computer tracked Ji's last location to a large building in the middle of a forest. Ta landed nearby and moved quietly through the trees. He could hear voices inside the building. Through a window, he saw Ji standing in a large room. She was facing Commander Da. Why, Da? Ji was asking. Why betray our people this way? Da was tall and proud, his blue skin darker than Ji's. His white hair was cut short in military style. I betrayed no one, he said coldly. You are the traitor, Ji. You and your human feelings. The alliance brings peace, Ji argued. How can peace be betrayal? Peace with humans is weakness. Da shouted. They will never respect us. They will take everything in time. You're wrong, Ji said. I've seen differently. Da stepped closer to her. Yes, I know what you've seen. I've watched you with your human guard. The way you look at him. The way you let him touch you. Ji stood tall. Captain Ta is a good man. He is human. Da spat the word. And you have forgotten what that means. Your mother died at human hands, yet you would give your heart to one. I give my heart where I choose, Ji said. Day's face hardened. Then you are lost to us. He signaled, and armed Eon surrounded Ji. The council will decide what to do with a traitor. Ta had heard enough. He checked his weapon and prepared to enter. It was madness. He was one human against many armed Eon. But Ji was in danger, and nothing else mattered. As he moved toward the door, he heard Ji's voice, clear and strong. The true betrayal, she said, is turning away from peace because of old hatreds. Tay took a deep breath and broke through the door. Ta burst through the door with his weapon ready. Every Eon in the room turned to stare at him. Their faces showed shock and anger. A human on sacred ground. Someone shouted, "Kill him." "No," she cried out. She tried to move toward Tai, but 2 guards held her arms. Day smiled coldly. "Captain Ta, how good of you to join us. Now everyone can see what I mean." He looked around the room. "See how this human breaks our most sacred law. This is what they all will do if we let them." "I came for Ji," Ta said, keeping his weapon ready. There were at least 10 armed Eon in the room. He knew he couldn't win, but he had to try. "Put down your weapon," Dad ordered, "or we will be forced to kill you." "Let Ji go first," Ta demanded. Jai looked at Ta with wide eyes. "You shouldn't have come. They will kill you." "I swore to protect you," Ta said. "I keep my promises." Day laughed. "How touching. The human wants to save you, Ji. But who will save him?" He nodded to his guards. "Take him." 3 guards moved toward Ta. He fired his weapon at the ceiling, causing everyone to duck. In that moment of confusion, he moved quickly to the side of the room. "Listen to me," Ji shouted over the noise. "Day is lying to you all. He plans to attack the peace conference. He wants war, not safety for our people." Some of the Eon looked unsure now. They turned to Da with questions in their eyes. "She has been corrupted by humans," Daz said. "She cannot be trusted." "We have proof," Jai insisted. "Show them, Ta." Todd pulled out his device and displayed the files they had found. Images and messages floated in the air for all to see. Day's name was clear on many of them. "This is false," Dai shouted, but his voice was less certain now. "The proof is real," Ji said. She turned to face the other Yun in the room. "I have served our people all my life. You know me. You know my father. Would I lie about this?" She stood tall and proud. "Dodd wants to keep old hatreds alive. He thinks strength comes from fighting. But I have seen another way." She looked at Ta. "True strength comes from trust, from working together, not against each other." Some of the guards lowered their weapons. They were listening to her. Day saw he was losing control. With a cry of rage, he pulled out his own weapon and aimed it at Jie. "If you will not see the truth, then you are no use to our people." Everything happened very fast then. Ta saw the weapon pointed at Jai. He saw Daz's finger on the trigger. Without thinking, Tai jumped forward. The shot was loud in the small room. Ta felt burning pain in his chest. He fell to the floor, hearing Ji scream his name. Through blurry eyes, he saw the other Yun grab Da. They took his weapon and held him down. Ji broke free and ran to Ta, dropping to her knees beside him. "Ta. No, please, no," she cried, pressing her hands to his wound. "Why did you do that?" "Sworn to protect," he whispered. It was hard to speak, hard to breathe. "Help him," she ordered the others. "Get a medical team now." Tada felt cold spreading through his body. Ji's face above him was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Her dark eyes were filled with tears. "Don't leave me," she begged, holding him close. "Please don't leave me." Tai wanted to tell her so many things, how her smile made him happy, how her mind impressed him every day, how he had broken his other promise, to never let feelings get in the way of duty. But he couldn't speak. The room was getting dark. The last thing he heard was Ji's voice, saying words he never thought he would hear. "I love you, Ta. I love you." She had broken her vow after all. Tai floated in darkness for a long time. Sometimes he heard voices. Sometimes he felt a cool hand holding his. But mostly there was nothing. Then, slowly, light returned. He opened his eyes to see a white ceiling. He was in a bed in a room he didn't know. His chest hurt when he tried to move. "Be still," said a soft voice. "You are still healing." Tai turned his head to see Ji sitting beside his bed. Her white hair was loose around her shoulders. Her dark eyes were tired but happy. "Ji," he whispered. His voice was rough from not being used. "What happened?" "You almost died," she said, taking his hand. "The shot damaged your heart. Our doctors worked for hours to save you." Ta looked around. The room had the clean, simple style of N buildings. "We're still on your world." Ji nodded. "Yes, in my father's house." Ta was confused. "But humans aren't allowed." "Many things have changed," Ji said with a small smile. "While you were healing, my father came. He saw what Dai had done. He heard what I said about you." Tai tried to remember. Everything from that day was blurry. "What did you say?" Ji's blue skin darkened slightly, like a human blush. "I said I loved you." The memory came back to Ta. He had been dying. Ji had held him. She had said those words. "I thought I dreamed that," he said quietly. "It was real," Ji promised. "I broke my vow. And I don't regret it." Tai wanted to sit up, to hold her, but he was too weak. "What happens now?" "Your people are changing," Ji finished for him. "What happened with you and Dai has become known to all. A human who would die for an Eon who would defy tradition for love." She squeezed his hand. "It has made many people think differently." "And your father, the High Counselor?" "He was angry at first," Joy admitted. "But seeing me grieve for you, it changed something in him. He said he had not seen me care so deeply for anyone since my mother died." Tai was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "What about your duty? Your position?" "I have a new position now," she said. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "The Council has approved a special program. Humans and Eon working together, living together, learning from each other. My father calls it the Bridge Program." "And you're in charge," Todd guessed. "We are in charge," Ji corrected. "If you want to be. You're no longer required to be my guard. You're free to go back to your old life." Todd looked at their joined hands, his tan skin against her blue. He thought about the past months, about how his feelings had grown from duty to respect to love. "My life is with you now," he said, "if you'll have me." Ji's smile was like sunrise. "I would have no other." She leaned down and touched her forehead to his, an Eon gesture of deep affection. 3 weeks later, Tai stood with Ji on the observation deck of a new ship. He still moved carefully, his wound not fully healed, but he was strong enough to stand beside Ji as she addressed the first group of humans and Eon in the Bridge Program. "We come from different worlds," Ji told them. "We have different customs, different bodies, different ways of thinking. But we share the same stars, the same hope for peace, the same capacity for understanding." Ta stepped forward. "And sometimes, the greatest understanding comes from the most unexpected connections." He held out his hand. Ji took it, their fingers intertwining. Behind them, through the large window, they could see both their worlds. The Eon homeworld glowed blue in the distance. Earth was a small blue-green dot further away. Between them, Peace Station shone like a new star. "To new beginnings," Ji said. Ta smiled at her, the woman he had sworn to protect, the woman who had sworn never to love a human, the woman who had changed everything. "To new beginnings," he agreed. Together,